Hello and a very warm welcome to this week's Super Six podcast. I cannot believe I'm saying this. I'm Laura Woods, and today, once again, I'm on my own in this podcast. I cannot believe it. Bioconfirmer last week had an extra long ice bath, and this week, apparently, he's been called into extra training because his fitness levels are a bit low. So I totally understand it. You know, he's got a full-time job and all that, but he will be gutted when he realises who we have on this week because it's somebody that I reckon equals him in terms of the loudest laugh on the circuit and perhaps the biggest personality. I'll tell you who that is shortly. But before I reveal that, a reminder for you, as this is the Super Six podcast, of course, and it's Easter weekend, there are now going to be two opportunities to play Super Six this weekend. So one on Friday and another one on a Monday, which means you've got two chances to win £250,000. So get yourself involved. More details on that later. But now it's time to introduce a very, very special guest. Okay, let's get into it because today's guest has been breaking hearts and making us smile ever since he burst onto the scene way back then, becoming the youngest ever England defender to earn himself a cap. Without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Mr. Micah Richards. Hello, Micah.
Hello, Loz. How are you doing? You all right?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, before we get started, I'd like to say congratulations on your award for presenter. Yes.
Do you know what?
Honestly, I thought I could come on now. She's worthy of me coming on.
I know, you had to wait though, didn't you? He was like, wait till she just gets to a certain standard I can accept. Oh, she's an award winner. Oh, brilliant. I'll come straight on then. Yeah, book her in. Apparently you want to come on next week as well. Look, can you see? I didn't even mean to do this. It's there. Can you see it on the mantelpiece?
SJA, you know what? Fair play to you. You deserve it. I told you. How many times have we talked now? I don't know. We've got this is a podcast that's about something else, but
it's about you.
Yeah,
it's meant to be about you.
I tell you how good you are all the time, but now at least you can believe it.
Now I'm going to get a really big head, aren't I? Like, Micah, I know. All right, give me a break. I'm going to stop returning your calls and all sorts. Right, I'm absolutely buzzing that you're on the show today because you pretty much have been at the top of everyone's list since day one. I mean, how long have I been trying to get you to work with me on other things? And you're always like, genuinely, I'm not even joking now, but you're so busy, but it's great to see. Like, it's one of those exciting things. You must feel now that everyone must want a piece of you, Micah. Does it feel like that?
Yeah, you know what? It feels a bit weird. Well, no, it doesn't feel weird. It feels... So basically, what's happening to me now with the punditry, and I'm not talking about how good I am, it's just everyone wanting to do things. So when I first came, well, you know, we always laugh, burst on the scene, but when I came onto the scene when I was younger, and I was playing for England at 18, and everyone wanted a piece, Laura, and it was like... So I've gone through, like, having great people around me to so many life lessons, hangers-oners and all that. And now I'm in a similar situation where, like, everyone's asking me to do this. And, like, people are taking offense, me saying no to certain bits and pieces. And it's not any disrespect to any of them people. It's just I'm a little bit more guarded in what I want to do now. And people think I work loads and stuff like that, but I actually don't. BBC I was already with. Sky I came after that, and then CBS, and they're the only three I do. I do little bits and pieces for other people as well. And but in terms of punditry and whatnot, yeah, we do stuff outside of the punditry stuff that we do. But yeah, they're the only contracts that we got. So when people like say, oh, you don't fancy, you're too big for it, it's nothing to do with that. I'm just a little bit more guarded in what I do.
But you've earned that right. And I know what you mean, because the thing is, with social media nowadays, it looks like you're everywhere, doesn't it? Because it's like you've got a picture here, you've got a picture there. Really, if you add up your hours, probably the same as a 9 to 5. It's just that what you do is projected and shared, and that's what kind of gives that impression.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think, I just enjoy it. This is not work for me, Lord. To be honest, like I don't get nervous about, you know, when people say, oh, like you go on camera and you're never nervous, you're laughing and joking. I don't get being nervous is playing like in a final or something like that. You knowing you've not won a trophy for so long, and that's the pressure. I don't see this as pressure. I just see this as like the best job in the world, and that's why you see when we work together, we're just like, it's relaxed because I don't feel no pressure. Obviously, you want to get to a certain level where you can improve, and then I can't just be like, because one of them things where when you first come into someone, people that love you or hate you, and then I've got people liking me at the moment, but I need to be able to then, well, what's the next step? How can I improve? And that's going to be I think the tough task for me.
That's interesting to me as well, because what you've just mentioned about your career and about how you felt that hype before and you felt that feeling of everyone building you up. And it's almost like you've got in the back of your head, it can be ripped away from you so quickly. So does that almost make you, I don't know, maybe add into your experience a little bit and make you kind of think, like what you're saying, don't rest on your laurels, make sure you're always improving and trying to get better?
That's exactly it, because how many ex-footballers or, you're a presenter, how many people would love to have our jobs? Everyone be working, because everyone loves football. And the good thing about football is no opinion's wrong. It's their opinion. So whether people like what we say or not, it's our opinion, and no one can take that away from us. So there's so many people. It's such in a privileged position, and that's why I just enjoy it. I don't think about the negatives. Like we're one word from being sacked on TV or radio or whatever. We're one word. If you think about it, like if you thought about that, you're regarded in what you say. One word from being sacked.
I think about it all the time, probably more than I should. Every time I start a show, I think, I'm going to go and do hours of research. And then in one swift moment, I could just destroy everything. It's like a house of cards, isn't it? And one little card just got to pull away and then you're done and that's your career. And it's this interesting thing of cancel culture as well, isn't it? Because now it's not just what you say on air, it's how that then translates to social media, who sees it, who shares it. And then it's just like a wildfire. It's terrifying. But in a way, do you kind of like that a little bit as well?
I like it, I like thinking on my feet. That's just my personality. I'd love like a banter. I'm always looking for the next step of what can I have a cheeky little line or but you have to be careful because it's clickbait, isn't it, out there? It is. You say one thing wrong. I remember saying a couple of things, and I don't want to talk about the racism thing because I've obviously had the documentary and I've done that. But I said something, and then the way I worded it, people not saying what I said was wrong, but the way I worded it, they were seen as, oh, he's a sellout, and I was just like, oh my God, one word or one or two words are taken. And I think that is the difficult part. But as long as you learn from it, and like you said, as long as you grow, like I'm a grafter. I love grafting. So I'm always watching games anyway. So, for me, I sort of like that sort of spontaneousness about it, I would say. And football's always got entertainment, so you never know what's going to happen, and that's what unpredictability is I love the most.
I'm going to bring you onto your broadcast career later on and more about it and how that fills what would be a void from leaving football as well, I imagine. So we'll discuss all of that and also your love affair with Roy Keane, which really I wanted to start with, but I felt like, we'll build ourselves into it. We won't go in too hard on that yet. Let's take you back to the early days because you're a Leeds boy, essentially, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a Leeds boy. Everyone thinks I'm a Manchester boy. I went to Manchester when I was 14, 15, just leaving school. I left school a little bit. I think I was going to school 3 or 4 times a week. You had to do your GCSEs and all that sort of thing. But I'm from Leeds. I'm from Chapeltown in Leeds. So, it's like, I'm a tough boy. Everyone thinks because I'm always smiling and joking and laughing and all that. But I have got I won't say a bad side, but more of a temper side. But no one sees it because I don't need it. I don't like it. I don't.
So when do you call on it?
If someone's being disrespectful, if someone's like, there's always a line that you don't need to cross. Do you know what I mean? And I don't get to a situation where that ever happens. But I respect everyone like that. If someone's done something wrong to someone else, they've not affected me. As long as I respect you, you respect me, and that's it. So I grew up in an area where we're known to look after ourselves. Yeah.
So City really is where we know you from, obviously. So you were 14 years old when you moved to Manchester City. So you didn't play for Leeds. How did it come about that you went to Manchester City? Like, tell us about what happened there.
So I actually, I didn't play for Leeds. You're totally right, but I was there for like a 3 to 6 months period. My mum's cousin is called Cecil Pod. He used to play for Bradford. he was doing some role at Leeds United, and he brought me there, and I was training there for like 6 months. I say I got signed, but I wasn't really signed, to be honest. So then I went to play for Leeds City Boys after Leeds United, and that's where all the like local starts, like Oldham and Manchester and all that sort of thing. So I was at Leeds City Boys. Then while I was at Leeds City Boys, I got scouted for Oldham Athletic, and I was there from 11 till 14. And then one of the coaches from Oldham Athletic went to Manchester City, and that's how I ended up at Manchester City. And it's just, honestly, they were great days, you know. I love them days, because that, when I say I love them days, it's like, forget the pressure a minute, it's just an enjoyment of football. And I see these kids nowadays, and then you see the parents on the sideline, everything's about, oh, can I put my son, daughter, whoever it may be, on Instagram, show what they can do. But the enjoyment has gone out of the game. And that's what I don't like. When I was at that age, I just loved football, and I still love it now, but I just loved it.
Did it feel like football back then was just a lot purer than it is now?
Well, way purer. I mean, you're always going to get the parents on the sideline shouting, but it was just a good space to be. Like, I know these kids now, and with what's happening in society and COVID and whatnot, they can't go out, but we just used to go to the park every single day. Like, we didn't used to go on holiday during the summer. Just used to go to the park every single day, play football. Like, they're all on games and everything's on like social media, and I feel like they missed out on all the great things that they could have in their life, and that's a bit I miss as well.
It's like, I feel a bit like expectations are higher for younger people. So at younger ages, your expectations of yourself are so much higher, because you have a window into social media where that person's got a car or that person's doing that. Like, I used to go camping when I was a kid. Like, I loved it. I don't think I went abroad till I was about 15. I think that was like Spain or something like that. And I just didn't, that was all I expected, and I loved it. And I couldn't even imagine growing up now and being young like we were once, and having social media to kind of go, oh, like, why don't I have that? Why don't I look like that?
Social media it's a blessing and a curse. You see, someone was raising some money the other day for his daughter on Instagram. And
Saw it.
Yeah, and he was like, and I put on my socials, was like, that's a great side. He raised what, when I last looked, it was like 1.4 million within a day.
Incredible.
That is ridiculous. So we can't just say it's all bad. It can be good when it need be, but you're totally right. Like, you know, what car you gonna have? Who's got the biggest house? Who's got the best looking girlfriend or boyfriend? It is tough, isn't it? Because and we can sit here and say, me and you now, we can sit here and say, oh, we wouldn't be like that, but we would be like that, because
we would.
We would.
Yeah,
we
100%.
would. And
we definitely have the best looking partners. I was a right ugly little kid. I definitely didn't have the right. I didn't even have a partner, let alone a good looking one. I think it took until I was about 25 for someone to fancy me. Just joking. Let's talk about the way that City changed while you were there, because it had its monumental shift, probably the biggest shift in its history when Sheikh Mansour took over. But you were around for all of that, and the managers. And I was looking at the managers that you played under. Stuart Pearce might just be my favourite man in football. I just think he's a gentleman. What was he like as a manager?
Honestly, I mean, he was the nicest bloke to me, and honest. He gave me my debut at 17, and I can't, thank him enough. I can't put into words what he means to me, as not just as a manager, but as someone who looked up to, because obviously you're a year above me, so we would have seen Stuart Pearce, but we wouldn't have seen him in his we wouldn't have seen like we see games today. We know who he was, but if you go back and watch his videos, how good of left foot he actually had, and he loved the tackle, and he's called a psycho. And then for him to give him a chance, it was just a great feeling. And he was the manager who actually had the most faith in me out of everyone. Out of absolutely everyone, he had the faith in me, because when we had he gave me my debut, then he took me to the Olympics, And then he had the England manager job for a couple of games, and he brought me back into the England squad. So that is total faith. And to be fair, and the 21s, forgetting the 21s, I didn't let him down, by the way. I didn't let him down when I played for him, by the way.
I was going to ask you that. That was definitely what I was going to ask you. He had all this faith in you. Did you repay it all?
So there was a time where I felt, so he was a 21s manager, or he was a manager, I think he was a 21s manager, and he came back to Man City or something, and I think I was first team then, or he was manager of someone, but then like, I think he wanted to speak to me about something, but I'd already left. So in terms of on the field, I did everything I could do, but off the field, I didn't realise until like after he finished, like, this man was an absolute diamond to me. And I couldn't even wait 20, 30 minutes after training to see what he had to say. And maybe it's because I think I didn't want to be like the teacher's sort of pet, you know what I mean? I think that's what I was thinking. But yeah, in terms of on the field, yeah, we had some great time. He got me into the England squad playing for Manchester City. Like I said, the Olympics, 21s, championships, we got to the final as well. And then he brought him back for England. So yeah, I think I repaid him, but it was all down to him giving me the chance in the first place.
You can go through Sven-Goran Eriksson as well, Mark Hughes, all those different managers, which I think are all interesting guys in their own right, really. But I want to talk to you more about when the club started making these big signings and these top talent players came in and what they were like. Who were the ones that you looked at? And because a couple of them weren't necessarily big names when they joined, but have become incredible players, as we know. So who were the ones that came in and you were like, wow, I'm sharing the dressing room with these guys?
Well, the first one, and you probably know, once I think the takeover was in 2008, we got Robinho. He was the one, because he come from Real Madrid. And we was like, he couldn't possibly come into us. I couldn't believe
he lost.
You've seen how many times people have been taken over and they talk a big game. So don't forget, we had Shinawatra beforehand, and he invested in some good players. But when we had Sheikh Mansour and Khaldoon as the chairman, this was a different level. Then Robinho starts rocking up. Then after Robinho, we had like people like David Silva. And like, we didn't know too much about him, but when he first trained, you just knew. Then who else we had? Yaya Toure came. These are like ridiculous players. And I'm here, like, I'm just come through the youth. So I made my debut when I was 17. And the year before that, I was playing like under 16s football. So I went from under 16s to make my debut, then to playing with these like legends of the game all within like 3-4 years. Couldn't believe it. I was picturing myself,
mad.
I went to play for England. So the year before that, I was playing under 18s Youth Cup, or under 16s Youth Cup, whatever it was, the year before. Make my debut next year, or that same year, but then I'm playing with David Beckham like the year after. So I'm like, what is happening here? It all happened too quick. It really did. And then when them players come, and then more players started coming at Manchester City, and more, and then I was just like, I knew it was going to be a force then, because it wasn't just like one or two players, it was like 3, 4, 5, and every year we just got better and better and better. And I've got to give some love to Sheikh Mansour and Khaldoon, purely because people think are just the players we got, but what they've done in the community around it, how many jobs they've created as well, the new training facility for not only men, but for women and for kids as well. It's frightening, and everything that he said he would do, he's done, apart from one thing, and you know what is a
Champions League?
Of course, the Champions League. So, fingers crossed this year.
Is it going to be this year, Michael, do you think? Like, with your pundit hat on for a second, and being like impartial, and I know that you're quite good at that. You are. Do you do you think that, given the draw as well, because it's not the easiest side, is it? Like, so given the draw that Man City have got, do you still think they can do it?
You know what? I don't. This is the hardest question as a pundit. I have to. On paper, yeah, you'd think, of course, they can do it. Why not? I don't know if they've got a mental block, because the last time we got to the semis was with Pellegrini, and years ago. So Guardiola, we know he can win it because he's won it before. He didn't win it with Bayern though, which was a lot of people had a lot to say about. I believe they're in the best shape possible to win it this year. But if they beat Dortmund, then they're coming up against Bayern or PSG. So it's like, and I know you've got to beat them if you're going to win it anyway. But I think if it was one game in the final, we could. I just don't like the fact that if we beat Dortmund or if Man City beat Dortmund, they've got Bayern or PSG.
Look, no matter how many people say you've got to beat everyone in a competition to win it, you don't. There are easier sides of the draw. There are easier teams to play against. It's the luck of the draw, essentially, isn't it? And if you're a Chelsea and you get in Porto, you're feeling a lot more smug than if you're Man City right now, aren't you?
100%. And Chelsea are dark horses. I did a piece a couple of months ago. I was like, oh, it's a disgrace, Frank Lampard out the door. And then Tuchel come in. I'm like, I was like, oh. I thought they conceded like 2 or 3 goals, and then they beat Porto. They're in the semi-finals, and they've got Real Madrid or Liverpool that other side, and they're not particularly playing well. Next minute they're in the final, and Chelsea, honestly.
I was in that camp, Micah. I was one of those that went on radio. This is despicable. You can't just sack Frank Lampard. Who are you going to get in? And then all of a sudden, Thomas Tuchel, I was like, oh. and then you see what they're doing. You're like, all right, I see. Yeah, I get it. Like, maybe you're not so mad after all. But look, you can still have those emotional connections, can't you? You can still love a manager and hate the way that they've been treated, especially if you're a Chelsea fan and he's an ex-legend. So look, we're allowed to be right and wrong in these circumstances, aren't we? But I want to bring you back to Man City, the first big, real sort of landmark win. You were involved with the FA Cup final against Stoke. What year was it? 2011? Yeah. Tell us your memories.
2011, so...
That's like 10 years ago, Micah.
I know, it's crazy. Getting old. It just shows how old we're getting, doesn't it? It's ridiculous.
Doesn't it? Not that I played in it.
I remember it like it was one of those where City had not won a trophy for 40 odd years, and I never get nervous. I got nervous in the derbies, and then like maybe a final a little bit, but not really. It was more just, excitement. It's hard to explain. When someone asks you, what does it feel like? It's like all your emotions in one. Like 1 minute, like, yeah, you want to prepare right. So then, like, all the rituals come in. Make sure you pack this, you pack that. What film am I going to watch? All these come into it. So it's like everything is like just times 10. So you're over-exaggerating everything. Because everyone always asks you, what's it like? That it's like basically studying for the exam that's going to get you your job that you need, but you're just doing too much studying. You're overthinking things. So that's what it's like going into a final. And then I was thinking, Stoke were a horrible team to play against. Like, not a bogey team. Wigan was our bogey team, but you're thinking, if everything goes all right, we'll be fine. We've got the players to do it. But you know what you do as players? You start looking at their, like, strengths rather than, we're going to beat Stoke, it's easy. You start looking, who have they got up front? Is it Kenwyne Jones? Is it Walters? Is it whoever it was at the time then? Who am I playing against? I think it was Everton? Was it on the left who I played against? And he was quiet that game. So that you go with like personal battles. But then you're thinking, it's only Stoke. We'll be all right here. And yeah, the game only finished 1-0. But then, because I came through the academy, it was more special for me that to win the trophy. I could get what the fans felt. Because when I went to Man City, I didn't know if I was going to make it or not. You didn't know what the environment was going to be. I wasn't a wonder kid. I was good for my age, but I was never like a wonder kid. So you never know how it's going to turn out. But then to win it, the trophy, it was like all your emotion comes out. And I'm not really an emotional person, but like you want to cry, you want to laugh, you want to dance, you want to drink. It all comes together. And because like we was always in Man United shadows, it's like finally we can become our own, and that's what it felt like.
Did it then? So, I mean, the Premier League and that moment against QPR, Aguero, all of that stuff that just seems to, I still think now with Aguero, we'll talk about Aguero as well, with him saying that he's leaving City at the end of the season, we go back to those moments and I still don't think there is a moment really that matches it for the timing and what it meant and the circumstances of what it did to your neighbours and all these kind of things. Like, it was just so perfect to be involved in something like that. What was that like?
You know what? It was bittersweet for me. You know, I'm always honest. It was bittersweet because I'd played the majority of that season, played in the 6-1, but I got injured. Did my hamstring about 6 games to go. So then, like, Zabaleta, we was rotating Champions League, whatever it was. So we had that bond. We know if one's playing Champions League, we're going to play Prem. I played majority of Premier games that season, but I missed that one important game. And Mancini at home always played me at home because the way we wanted to be, like, we were attacking and whatnot. So I'm thinking I'm definitely playing, but because they'd not lost in that last period of games, he didn't want to change it and like make a mistake. A bit superstitious, I would say. But even why I was more devastated, Lawrence, because normally the game would be up 2-3-0 up, and then he'd put me on, we'd go to a 5 at the back. So that's why me and Zabaleta played, because if one of them started, as long when we went up, was winning. If it was 1-0, it throw one of us on. But then what happens in that game? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just so topsy-turvy. So, like, when people ask me about that, it hurts to start with, but then it ends great. So being in not playing, it was all about me to start with. But then who scores the first goal? Zabaleta. You know, just to stick
Just to twist the knife
a bit more. And then I'm on the bench. I'm like, I'm winning the Premier League. But my rival, and people can say, I don't care what no one says. Person who's playing your position is your rival. I don't care what anyone says, it's your rival. He goes and scores, but he's a lovely bloke at the same time. So it's like, you know, what do you do? But then obviously
you're just completely torn.
I was torn.
You're just torn, sitting on the bench, torn. But I could never understand it. But in the same way, essentially, it's like that fire in you that makes you disappointed, not just disappointed, but feeling a bit bitter at the fact that you're not involved and you want to be involved in one of the biggest moments because you know and all the work that you've put in to get there as well. But essentially, that is what makes you a sports person, because you're competitive.
Exactly that. That's what. Without that, you wouldn't get to the Premier League or the level that you're at. You need that. I've always been a winner, and I always backed my ability. Sometimes too confident at times. I've always backed my ability. So then, like, when I wasn't playing, it's hard to accept that. A lot of people can't fathom what that means, but it's like, well, a lot of people say, oh, you're on X amount of money, you won the Premier League or whatnot, but how did you win the Premier League? What was your involvement in that? What did you give? Did you play a real part? And I played an amazing part in that season, but it was just that game, and that was the memorable game that everyone talks about. Oh, did you play that? No, I was on the bench. Oh, I was on the bench. You know, how many times do I have to say? You know what? Sometimes I just say, "Oh no, I didn't play. I wasn't involved. I've just started saying that I was ill that game. Do you know what I mean? Because then I have to go on tandem and talk about it for 10, 15 minutes. Well, I played in the 6-1 game, trying to protect myself left, right, and centre. So yeah,
you must get it even more this week now that Aguero is going to be leaving. You must obviously I've just done it, but I had to do it. But you must be getting it from all sides.
All sides. But it ended great. I was great. I was happy I got to witness that, because, like you said, it probably never ever happened again. We see the Leicester story. What they did was just, never thought that would happen. And then to score in the last couple of minutes of the game, we never thought that would happen as well. So, yeah, to be a part of that squad. And Aguero, you mentioned that we're moving on to Aguero with all what's happened this week. Like, he's going to be the last member of that team, that first Premier League team.
That's weird, isn't it, to think of it like that?
It's sad. So basically, I was on radio when the news broke, And Sergio's been texting me. I mean, asking him how he's all right and whatnot. Because when we after lockdown, we'll go for some dinner and all that sort of thing. And then when it came, I was like, you know me, I'm always laughing and bubbly. I was devastated. There was no point me doing the last hour of the show because I couldn't process it really. I mean, I know it sounds stupid and it's not that, but there's people who make a mark on clubs, and he was like a real, genuine, world-class superstar legend of the game, and not just Man City, like of the Premier League. I know you'll sit there with your Arsenal hat on and talk about Henry and this, that. I was Arsenal growing up, so I can sympathise with you.
You?
I was Arsenal. So I can sympathise with you. I get that. But to see that end of an era after all what he's done and given for the club, it was hard. And I think the timing of it was harder for me to accept as well because, you know, they're still in 4 competitions. And then to announce that now, it's like, is it going to cause a little bit of unrest in the camp?
Why do you think they did announce it then?
I think it would have, because you know what it's like with agents and clubs and whatnot. It's hard for people to sit on that information for so long, isn't it? Especially when you've only got 6 months. Like he's only 32, Aguero. I think he's born in June as well, so he'll be 33. And everyone talked about how well Cavani's doing. He's only 33. He's got at least two years at a good level left in him, especially. He could have played at Man City. So I think they just did it so then it could stop any rumours coming out or any stories coming out as well. And sometimes it's better how bad the news is. It's just to be the one to break it rather than someone else finding out and then them having to come out and doing the statement. That's what I think anyway.
Is this right? Did you assist Aguero's first City goal?
Of course I did. This is what I'm trying to say.
You need a statue for that, don't you?
There's Aguero, there's Dzeko, there's many more. There's many more that go down, you know what I mean? I'm going to have to start rolling back some videos out there because it's like people are talking about the modern day. I invented that modern day fullback marauding forward. This is where the burst came from.
Marauding forward. I might start a petition. So Aguero's statue should be that first goal he ever scored for City, with a little statue of you assisting in the background.
That'd be fantastic.
Comes as a pair, doesn't it?
It comes as a pair. You know what I mean? Batman, Robin.
Exactly. So the next Premier League title came, and in terms of the world conspiring and helping you out, it came in the form of Steven Gerrard with his slip, Demba Ba getting in on goal, and Chelsea basically doing you a massive favour. How special was that title, and how obviously everything else afterwards had to happen? But it's funny, isn't it, that a lot of the world pin it on that moment because it was Liverpool's to lose.
It was so. If there was one person who deserved the Premier League, it was Steven Gerrard. So when he slipped, I was like, wow. Because especially he had them in the huddle as well before, wasn't he? I think it was after another game.
This will not slip.
And he said, this will not slip. And it was, I couldn't have wished that on anyone because he fully deserved it. What he did with Liverpool was just, I don't know if it'd be. And people talk about everything is about what we win. Of course, it's what you win. But how he galvanized his teams and like when they was like down and then bringing them back, even the Champions League, it was just proper character. But like when that happened, we just knew then it was our time. We knew it was our time. But again, we talk about bittersweet. I didn't even win. I've got the medal actually. I've got the medal here.
Let's have a look.
No, that's number 1.
Wow. I love that. Oh, whoops.
That's number 2.
Look at that.
So this is 13-14. So basically, what happened with this one, I didn't get enough appearances for the actual medal. So
How many do you need? 5?
5. And I was injured that season, and then I fell out with Pellegrini. Because again, I think I'm talking about Zabaleta. So basically, we did a game at half-time. Cup game. I was coming back to fitness. He brings me off at half-time, and we was losing the game. Put Zabaleta on absent. Say we always win in the second half anyway. They go on win the game. So I come in. I'm like absolute disgrace. Blah 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 blah. and they just dropped me from the team for about 5 squads. But it was fully deserved from me. I threw my toys out the pram. And then, like, I felt like going and saying to him, like, I need 3 more appearances for a medal. But I didn't want to seem desperate or whatnot. But yeah, it was again. We went on the pitch afterwards. You know, when I went to company and sell names and hand out the Premier Leagues. But I was staying in the changing room because I didn't want to come out. I said, I'm not going to accept a medal that I've not done anything with, especially after how I felt in the first one. But I went out there and then they shouted my name, and I just remember the commenter saying Micah didn't get one because he's not playing. It was the most embarrassing moment of my life. Yeah, they say that because no, he wouldn't say it bad. They say he doesn't qualify because he's not got his 5 appearances, and it's just like, oh.
Don't you think that's a bit of a draconian rule? Like, why? Like,
yeah,
you're part of it.
This is what I mean. So if you play one game but score the goal that wins you the title, you're not eligible for a medal?
If Aguero hadn't featured in that entire season and then scored that goal against QPR the first time,
exactly,
would they have gone kind of
exactly? So I do think, and it did get brought down from 10 to 5 with, I think Alex Ferguson did that, and you should be able to make 5 appearances, but because I've been injured and whatnot, like I play. It's not just what you do on the field; it's what you do off the field as well. And some people say, "Oh, well, you're just trying to claim." I'm not trying to claim it. I don't want it. I'm not bothered about the medal, but I just feel like what I went through, my injuries and whatnot, to be then said, you're not getting a medal because you've not played much on the pitch. I think it's a little bit. It's hard to take, to be honest.
Should we do England? Because this is where we laugh about that, we say, burst onto the scene, because obviously you and Roy Keane in that big conversation that you had. But I want to talk to you about this because you call up for England, youngest ever defender to win a cap. You beat Rio Ferdinand. What was the call? So I ask questions like this to guys now that when they get their call-ups and it's either a call from Gareth Southgate, it might be a text from Gareth Southgate. What was yours?
It was a call. I was in Moss Side in Manchester at the Barbers. And somebody rang me, and I think the story's been out there, but he rang me and said, "Oh, you've been called up for hi Micah, it's Steve, you've been called up for the national." I put the phone down because that's genuinely a true story. That is not even banter. I put it down because there would be no talk of it at all. It's normally like when a player is getting in there and whatnot, you got like a club might tell you or the journalist, but there was no talk. It came out of nowhere. So you know what I'm like. I'm always laughing and joking. So the people I used to hang around, we're always messing around. So I thought it was just one of the lads from training. So I put the phone down. Then it rang back again, but they rang with withheld number. That's why I thought it was a prank. So he rang and then said, "No, he's serious." So I'm just like in the Barbers. I couldn't believe it. 18, 18. The year before, I just made my debut. Now I'm in the England squad, and to get that call, it was weird because I put the phone down. But it was just one of the best feelings ever. It was just weird. It was just weird. Like in a Barbers with no one like telling me potentially you could be in the squad.
Do you know what's weird about when you say like 18? That's nearly half your life ago. Mm-hmm. Sorry, not to rub it in, but like
thanks for reminding
half
me.
my life as well.
What was you trying to do there?
Because what I was trying to do there is when you think back at when I was 18, the amount of, or I should say, the lack of responsibility I had in my life, and obviously I went off to uni and all that sort of stuff, but to be tasked and trusted with representing my country and then having to deal with everything that comes with that, the media, and it was different then to what it is now, isn't it? Like in terms of the scrutiny, the attention, all that sort of stuff that you get. I just don't know how I would have dealt with it. And the reason I say it's nearly half your life is because now that you're almost double that time on, not quite obviously, a way off it still, but like now you probably feel like you're only just really hitting levels of where you feel like an adult. So when you were 18, that's like, how, it must have been exciting, but also was it a bit scary?
You know what? I was fearless at 18. You know, I didn't care about anything or anyone. I had respect for people, of course, but I was just fearless, and that's what enabled me to just go and do or go and play with them. And I was playing well, club form. I don't know if I was playing at the levels to be called up to the senior team, if I was being totally honest. But them managers see the future, don't they? And they wanted to see how I'd done. But like I went in there and I ended up just like, and then when I'm talking about David Beckham, like I was starstruck. I was starstruck of David Beckham, Steven Gerrard, just Rio and John Terry, and they were the ones really. Michael Owen as well. Michael Owen was a big deal, wasn't he?
Mm.
So I went there and I was just I was pinching myself, but I didn't allow myself to show. Well, I didn't allow people to see that side of me. You just go out there and show people what you can do. And I like what I always said is, if you go back and see interviews with me, like I genuinely believe when I was fit, no injuries, and in form, I believed I could play against any fullback or compete with any fullback in the world. That's the confidence I had back then. I was just because I could defend 1-on-1, but then I could go forward as well. So it's like, remember, like I played for England. I played like 9 games straight in a row from 18 to 19. Like, and that normally when you go in there, you go in as like, oh well, we'll build up your minutes. And don't forget, people need to understand, and content is key. You got Rio Ferdinand, John Terry, Ashley Cole. You have Gary Neville. I think Wes Brown was around the squads then. You got Joe Cole, Lampard, Gerrard. You got the full squad. You got this is England when it's like impossible to get in the squad, and I'm in there and I'm just like fearless. So yeah, it was daunting on one foot because I was starstruck of these names, but on the other hand, I didn't care. I was fearless back then.
What were they all like? Were they quite welcoming? Did they quite like you being around and having that attitude?
Yeah, because I didn't show it to them. Like, so when we'd go like in, like say we was going for snacks or dinner or whatever it was, I was always polite. I was more shy, but on the field, I turned into some like Hulk. Like I know I'm quicker than you. I know I might not have the same positional play as you because I'm just like new to this level of football, but I know I'm faster than you. I know I'm stronger than you. You know, I know I can tackle as hard as you. So the liked my attitude on the pitch, and then I tried to sort of tone it down off the pitch. But like, and I've told it before, but you know, Steven Gerrard, he gave me his boots for his first ever training session, didn't he?
Did he?
Like, I know a lot of people. I've said it before, but some people might not have heard it. So we was going out, and the kit man who looked after the boots at City, he's put 2 left. He's called Les Chapman. Put 2 left in, and I'm thinking the first day of training, like I've not even got my boots. Steven Gerrard's, you know, he's
just to your left.
Doors, yeah, he's just to the left of me. And I said, I'm so sorry to do this, Stevie, but the kit man's put 2 left boots in there. Can I borrow it? He give me his boots.
Wow.
I was sensational in training. Felt like I was Gerrard. I was pinging balls. It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
Oh, that is amazing. Who were like, out of those senior players, were there any that put an arm around you and looked after you, or that you particularly were quite close to in comparison to the others?
You know, JT, I know he's had, you know, his good press and his bad press, but for a new player coming into the squad, John Terry is always the most welcoming all the time. If you need anything, Geese, my number, you know, this is my number, this is my room number, give us a call. That's just the way he is. So like Rio Ferdinand was always, he's more like one of the lads, isn't he? What's happening, bruv? You know, I do, you know, that sort of thing. So they just make you feel welcome straight away. Ashley Cole, I used to go on holiday with. to LA as well. So I knew of him a little bit before we linked up. So it was mainly them three who took me under the wing in terms of the senior players. But David Beckham was the nicest out of everyone by far. He was just the most. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I was in awe of in awe of the guy.
Okay, so I want to move you on a little bit from England because we talk about, you played under McLaren. I'm looking at your stats as well. 13 caps, 1 goal, 11 appearances under Steve McLaren. In terms of his management and the way that he is, I've heard from different people that he is an excellent coach, like one of the best coaches. Is that true?
Top notch. His best sessions by far. The camp was happy. The training he did for defense, he would split it up at times as well, so a bit more fun for the strikers. Go express yourself when you get into it. Explain what he wants from the session, but then you could be creative with that. As the defenders, he would remember one time he pulled me. He said, "Oof, he touches a bit off today, He touches a bit," and I was like, "What do you mean?" So then everyone's getting on the bus. And then he pulled me to there and he just started firing balls at me. And it was embarrassing because he's like I'm doing extras. But don't forget, I was only 18, 19 or whatever. So you have to accept that you're not like the finished article. But it's the attention to detail is what he had that made him a great coach and understanding what he needed. And it's just, if he would have had someone alongside him who could be a little bit more ruthless in some of the decision making, it'd be a perfect partnership because he's one of the best coaches ever. And you'll hear all the players, if anyone said he's not a good coach, you might say he's not a good manager, but no one will say he's not a good coach because his sessions are some of the best I've had. And I've played under some great managers.
Let's talk about the end of City because before you moved on to Aston Villa, you had a little trip to Italy. What was that like? Did you learn the language? What were the good bits and the bad bits?
Un pochino. Abite in Firenze, Ponte Vecchio Bridge.
What does that mean? What does it mean? You're saying something rude, aren't you?
You can Google it. No, Italy, brilliant. And I know it feels like I'm talking too much, so I'll try getting these out quicker.
No, this is what this podcast is all about. You've got to talk.
Yeah, I think Florence, I shouldn't have left. I never regret anything in my career and in my life because it is what it is. That's the way I see it. But I was living in Luca Toni's apartment, overlooking Ponte Vecchio Bridge. Google it when he finishes. Ponte Vecchio Bridge.
Ponte Vecchio Bridge.
And they've got like the gondolas, what they call them, going through down there.
Yeah, like a tuk-tuk.
Yeah.
No, but on water.
On water, yes.
It is a gondola, isn't it?
Yeah, gondola. So down there at night time, you got the music playing, and it was just, we're having wine before, we have a game on a Sunday. On Saturday night, we're all having dinner and wine together as a team in the team hotel. The weather is gorgeous. Everything about it was just the best. I don't know why I left. They offered me a deal, but because I was going on a free at the end, I didn't want to commit to that deal. So then they wasn't playing me as much because I wasn't committing to them, even though I was going on loan, which they knew. But they wanted a little bit of value if I signed a deal, basically. And then I knew the Premier League was calling, and I just wanted to give it one more try in the Premier League. And that didn't exactly turn out well, did it?
Let's talk about it. Because you signed for Aston Villa. And I mean, how did you kind of personally take being relegated and how that hit you? Because I suppose you're used to, with Manchester City, a period of growth, and then to feel that, how did it affect you?
One, when I left Fiorentina, I wasn't the same player I would be in at City for years, just because not only was I had about 5 operations on my knee, I started picking up hamstring injuries. So I had 2 hamstring, and then a last one just before the season finished up. So 3 hamstrings at Fiorentina. But there was 10 days or weekers, you know what I mean? You get one in an international break, but then they'll be cleared up, but you're not fully healed. So when I went to to Aston Villa, I spoke to the medical team, said, these are my problems, whatever. Spoke to Tim Sherwood, and while Tim Sherwood was there, didn't miss a game, because I wasn't training as much as everyone, kept you under. So I thought this was a match made in heaven. He wanted to play out, was playing some great football, was signing some good players, but then obviously Delphi goes, and Benteke leaves, Ron Vlaar leaves, free spiny team, basically. So then I started off, I feel good shape, and then the change of manager, and Remy Gard come in, and it was awful. I'll be honest, I'll say it was awful. But not only was it awful, my form was awful too. So, and everyone else in the team was awful as well. So it was collectively shambolic, married up with the fans booing us, where the confidence is drained even more. So it was just a recipe for disaster. And from being like a Premier League winner to be relegated, I'm glad it happened though, because it made me see it from both sides, and it shaped me as a person. I got so much abuse online and whatnot. You come here, you're supposed to be a leader, you're being this, that, you took us down, you was captain, this, that, and the other. I had all that sort of stuff, and it was a time where I was borderline. So my auntie had mental health, my brothers had mental health, so I've seen it throughout the years. So mental health to me was like someone who's just like you're speaking to them, but they're not all there, or they act in a certain way. But because we didn't speak about things back then, You know what I mean? So like now, like I know mental health goes deeper than that. It's anyone can have mental health, not just because you're acting a certain way, or you're not in the hospital where they used to take my brother and my auntie. It's too. And I realize you can actually have it by just the way you're feeling, and just because you're not showing it to someone, you can still have that mental health. So I was just above that depressed line in my book, but it taught me a lot of things. It taught me to enjoy life, to embrace it, to embrace all your opportunities. So I'm sort of glad I went through that. So now I can say, well, I've been there. Well, make sure you do the stuff that makes you happy, not to get back there. And football, for all the good things it has all these bad things, and that was the bad part. But I don't regret it one bit.
How do you feel about Villa now, and when you look back at that time?
I first interview I did was actually with Adrian Durham on your stuff on TalkSport. Yeah. And I said, the first thing I did was I apologised to the Villa fans. I apologised because they didn't see the best out of me. I signed a 4-year deal. I played the first season, and then my knee wasn't in a great state, and I tried to let people know, but I didn't come out and say anything in respect for them. So I still love Villa, and there's fans who have stuck with me through the whole thing. Villa fans, that is. So I love Villa. I love all the players there. You know Jack. He's one of your favourites too. John McGinn, Jack, Henry Lansbury, Mark.
It's a nice team, isn't it?
It's just great lads. How could I not like them? And I think now that I've started to speak and come out in the media sort of thing, people have started to realise, he wasn't as toxic as he made out. Maybe he didn't play as well as we thought, but in terms of how he was in the dressing room, we couldn't understand why he was around. So that was a good thing. It was being able to change people's opinions of me. That's what I do like about the stuff that we can do now.
Yeah. Well, let's get on to that, because punditry really, I mean, if anyone's going to have an amazing player career, that's one thing. And to play in the Premier League and experience everything that you've done, because there are great players that don't manage to win things. And you've done it, and you've always got that in your locker, and no one can take that away from you. Transitioning to punditry, I always think, I've worked in TV for about 11, 12 years, and I've seen players who are excellent players not be able to transition, and also not really given enough feedback or help to help them progress, because it's quite brutal, isn't it? In television, in broadcast, in general, radio, any of that kind of punditry work, it can be quite brutal. I don't think I've ever seen, though, as swift a transition of someone who just literally just comes off the playing field, goes into punditry, but almost creates, it's not like you've created a new style. It's like, it's just your own style. And that is the only thing. I remember working with people in the past, and once I figured out how to be a presenter, which is equally difficult in some stages, I remember speaking to pundits, and Clinton Morrison was one of them actually. And he was like, well, I was asking him for advice, and he was like, well, let me ask you for some advice then. And I remember the only thing I ever said to Clinton, and here's me being like way too young to be giving him advice, way too inexperienced in life. And I said, the one thing that you can only ever do is just completely be you and be unapologetic about it. Don't change anything about the way that you are, the way that you speak, your language, because it's you and it makes you up. And I feel like you're kind of one of those pundits that just did it naturally and really enjoys it.
Yeah, I think people are always going to take advice, or him asking you for advice. That's only normal, because you're like, when I mention the people who are like, and I've told you to their face, I genuinely think you're one of the best out there. Now you've got awards to prove to prove it. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't put you on the spot, but all it is I love football, and I have personality, and not everyone's gonna take to me. But what people don't understand behind the scenes is like I work. I've always, like, all Man City. If you go back to Man City videos, TVs, it's all me on there anyway. They don't want me to. So I've been doing this for a while, and I'm more of the. I can be serious. Like, I bought a documentary about racism. I can be as serious as need be. But football, in my opinion, is supposed to be fun. And all I see of the ex-players, all they do is want to talk negative. It's like they get a kick out of being negative about players. I'm like, hold on. It's just run by 5 players, and you're talking about the defending. How is that even possible? And I feel like sometimes it went a little bit overboard. So when I went in there, I thought, you know what? I won't say gap in the market, because that's not the right, but there's an area for actually be a little bit more light-hearted and talk about the positive things. And people might not accept it at the start. People might not accept it, but they might think, oh, actually. So it was a bit of a, and I don't tell people this, it was a gamble. It was more a gamble from me, really. Like, I think it was the first time I was on with Roy Keane and whatnot. But forget what I said when it was live. It was what was happening beforehand. I was like, I've got a good way of being able to get the best out of people in terms of making them feel like relaxed. So then behind camera, we was all laughing and joking. And people laugh and joke, of course they do, on behind camera. That's why it all happens. But it was like, I was feeling them out. Do you know what I mean? So when I was on camera, then they wouldn't try to destroy me. And that's what people try to do. People's career have been ended within 30 seconds because they've said the wrong thing. So I'm behind the scenes gauging how far I can push one another's buttons. And that's what I'm doing. So then when I got on screen, I'm like, actually, I can say that to him and he's not going to react in a way everyone expects him to react.
I do think it takes a certain person to be able to do that. First of all, to be brave enough to do that, and then carry it out in general. But what people don't see, and I'm glad you brought that up behind the scenes, because sometimes those studios, television studios for football shows, can be really not stuffy, really tense, even when the football's happening and you're watching. And those, I've watched those studios all my life. Like, you know, where you're behind the camera and you're working on production, and you're watching people when they're not on air, and they can be really tense. And I think, like, when people say you're a breath of fresh air, that's easy to say on screen, but you're also quite a breath of fresh air off screen when you're just in the studio, because you do relieve that tension. And I think people kind of go, yeah, you're right. We are talking about football and it is brilliant. And yeah, what that person just did there was an excellent move and a brilliant finish. And why don't we focus on that rather than where was the defender at that moment in time? Which of course is all fair game as well. But I do love that relationship between you and Roy. And I was really lucky, actually, when we did the Carabao Cup semi-final. Oh my God. I tell you what, I was absolutely bricking it when I saw his name on the script. And I was like, hang on a minute, nobody's told me Roy's been booked. I was like, I've got to sit next to Roy Keane. I was terrified. And then when we got there, I mean, you'll be able to tell everyone, he was so charming. Like, what a lovely guy to be around. I loved it. I wanted to keep standing next to him.
That is exactly it. Like, a lot of people ask me about Roy outside of work. I don't know Roy outside of work. I don't ring him. I don't text him.
Make it up.
I don't
Make it up. We want to know.
And it's behind the scenes in there. He's just the nicest, funniest. Like, he's so sharp as well. He's on it. And I think once football sort of clicks into gear, like, that's when his passion for the game comes. So when he's talking about certain bits and pieces on air, I don't. People starting to think, oh, is it a facade? Is it real? That's his general passion for the game. So that is all real. And everyone always asks me, what's he like? What's he like? I was like, honestly, he's the nicest guy I've ever met. I don't know what you want me to they're expecting me to say, oh, he's this and he's that. He's the nicest guy ever. He really is.
I think sometimes, especially when I was a bit worried about it, is because you can still come up against, in terms of being a woman in football, you can still come up against, I would say, people of a generation that might question why you're there. And it does still happen, not very often, I have to admit. And you worry, and you probably worry for more, like, there's no reason to worry, but it's just in your head, it just is. So when I was going to work with Roy, I wondered, I thought, is he going to try and kind of suss me out? Is he going to try and challenge me on things? You know, is he going to put me on the spot and make me earn my stripes? Which actually I don't mind. I mean, I'll be terrified, but I don't mind it, you know, because I would rather earn your respect. And what I found with Roy, instead of any of that, was that he was so willing to just teach me things. And it was while we were watching the game, and certain things would happen, and I'd go, all right, and he'd say it, and then I'd go, why? And then he would explain it to me, and it was so refreshing. And I wasn't scared after that. I was kind of like, oh, great, like, we're a team. And it was really nice, isn't it? I just really enjoyed it.
That's exactly what you need as a team. Like, a lot of pundits go on there, but we should be a team. We're going on to put the best analysis and the best entertainment possible. It's great when people argue, because that's entertainment too, of course. But when it was just us three then, like, we've got to make it as good as people want. So if he was offish with you, or you don't know how to be, it'd come across on air like that.
Translates, doesn't it?
Exactly. But yeah, he's, honestly, I can't speak highly enough of him.
But I do count you as one of those people, actually. I count you as one of those kind of pundits that likes to lift other people up. And I notice you doing it with everyone. I notice how supportive you are with Scotty as well, because Scotty comes up against some horrific stuff. And I've only ever seen you be publicly supportive of her in such a wonderful way. And it's really heartening to see, actually.
You know, it's tough because at the time, as I mentioned, like, she's a woman in a man's game. And she's black as well, so it's two, and that's why I have to, and I stick up for Karen Carney, the abuse that she's had. I'd stick up for you, and I've sent you a message before, you, Karen Carney, and Scotty and Matt, because I have to try and protect you, not because you're women, because there's people who out there who are narrow-minded, and just because you're a woman, they might have not even seen you work, whatever. The same thing is just because you're a woman. So I need to educate these people. No, they're there because they deserve to be there. End of story. I've said so many ridiculous things on camera. Like, I've got away with certain things and certain analysis because I'm a male. If that was a woman who had said that, like we've seen with Karen Carney, and she got it wrong. She got it wrong, as all we do. But there's no point trying to sugarcoat it. She got it wrong in what she was saying then. But we all get it wrong. It's just at that point. And I just feel like I feel protected of not just women, everyone, because I know how hard it is to succeed in this industry. And that's just in the short term that I've worked with so many different people. And I can see people being nervous, people worried about what to say. I said, just relax and be yourself. What will be, will be. And I feel like I have to sort of protect Alex so much is because, as well, she's so good. And all the stuff that she gets is just nonsense. It is absolute nonsense. And like everyone, not just you three who I'm protected, all the people who are in the game now deserve to be in there. And if we all get that period, won't we? Year 2, 3, might be 5 years. If you're not good enough, at some point you will get taken off. But it's about giving people a chance to show what they can do. And the thing is, Law, people don't like change. That's the problem. Yeah. People don't like to see change. And then when change is happening, and then when people actually start doing good, people don't like to see it. That is the problem.
It's not nice, is it? I know exactly what you're saying about, because I feel like that as well. Change, people don't like that initial feeling. They might then get used to it and then it's all right. And it's like, oh, the world didn't finish, it's fine. One thing as well, just before we move on Scotty, is I always think that people underestimate how difficult it is to go into that studio, sit next to Roy Keane, Graham Souness, might even be Jose Mourinho when he was working for Sky, and give an opinion that might be different to theirs. Like, would you ever do that? Would anyone ever have the balls to do that? Not just do it in general, but do it on national TV. And I think that it's so hard to understand it unless you've actually been in that room and experienced that feeling. But she does that week in, week out, and that you can't underestimate that. That's incredible strength, I think.
Yeah, you can't underestimate. But one thing you can do is Mourinho was experienced manager, Graham manager, player, Keane manager and player as well. But what thing you can do, like, you're young, like Alex is younger, so she'd been involved in more a modern game. So she could talk about what people get it twisted, Laura, is you don't have to compete with what they do. You have to give your experience of what it is now. Like, she might not play the man's game, but she can go do a research and be better prepared than some of them that will be on there. They can say something and they get the respect because of who they are, not necessarily because they've done the homework. And that's the difference. So as long as Alex or any woman or whoever's on there is well prepped, then your opinion is valid. And tell people, don't try to argue with them. Let them have their opinion. You give your opinion and have it backed up by something that you generally know or have studied about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you've lived it. No, you're so right. Okay, before we let you go, just 3 choices for you to choose from here. This is when players are at their full fitness and their full strength. It's an either-or question. Ruben Diaz or Virgil van Dijk?
I think Ruben Diaz has been brilliant, and I've got to be impartial. What Van Dijk has done over the last couple of years has been incredible. So I've got to say Van Dijk. I've got to say Van Dijk.
Okay. Ilkay Gundogan or Bruno Fernandes?
Oh, well, this season,
yeah.
Gundogan has been different level. If you're asking me who would I want in my team, I would pick Fernandes. But this season, Gundogan has come from nowhere, and he's always been a good player. Don't get me wrong, but he's never been this is his best goal scoring season. So
wait, what are you saying?
Fernandes.
Okay, fine. Phil Foden or Jack Grealish?
You see, I knew you was going to do this. I knew you was going to do this to me. I knew you was going to do this. I can't answer it.
You can't answer it?
Come on. It's a tie. It's a tie. Are we talking about this season though for this one? Or are we talking about in general?
I think it has to be this season, only because, forget Jack's injured though for now, but this season Phil's really come into his own, hasn't he? And actually Jack this season has been pretty spectacular. Should we do this season?
It's too honestly, it's too hard. I think.
Who would do better in an England shirt?
Genuinely, this is the hardest question I think I'd ever
Just think the sooner you answer it, the sooner you can go home. You're technically already home, but...
I'm going to say, at this moment in time, forget season, at this moment in time, I think Jack Grealish has just... I think Foden's got the ability to potentially be better, maybe, but I think at this moment in time, I'm taking Jack Grealish.
I can't believe you said that.
I couldn't win.
So out of all of the Manchester City players, you haven't picked a single one of them.
Wait. If it was this season, we've already said Diaz would be getting in there 100%. But we're talking about, I've got to be honest, I can't believe I've not picked one City player. But you knew what you was doing with these questions, though. You knew what you was doing.
Right. On that absolute bombshell, Micah, we will let you go. That was just wonderful. Thank you so much. We've waited for ages. Did not disappoint. Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. You know, we're the best. SJ is best.
Micah, thank you so much. We can't wait to see you back on the telly and listen to you on the radio and see everything else you're doing. Well done in your column as well. I actually quite enjoy it.
Yeah, it's decent, isn't it? Yeah, it's decent.
Really good. Really good. All right, Micah, take care. See you later.
Thank you much, Lars.
There you have it then, Micah Richards. We have been trying to get him on for ages. So chuffed he came on. Such a brilliant guy and really lovely actually to hear all those memories about being a footballer, because even though we know he's a footballer, I just feel like we associate him now with being a pundit, and it's so easy to forget those playing days. Anyway, brilliant to have him on. I know Bio will absolutely be gutted that he missed it, but hopefully Bio will be back next week. It is time to look at the Super 6 fixtures for round 46, and this week we're going to need to be quick because all these fixtures, they're taking place on Friday and there's tons of football across the weekend. Premier League returns on Saturday as well. We've missed it dearly. So there's actually going to be another chance for you to play Super 6 on Monday. So 2 chances to win £250,000. Download the Super 6 app, create an account, play for free by predicting the scores of 6 chosen matches. And those 6 chosen matches taking place on Friday are these ones as follows. So I'm going to give my predictions and then you guys can go and give yours, tear mine apart, do whatever you want. Bournemouth Borough, that's the first one. I'm going to go for a Desmond here because I cannot split them. And my stepdad is a Borough fan. So I feel like if I ever say he's going to lose, I'll be in trouble. So I'm going to say 2-2 for this one. Preston North End at home to Norwich. Norwich, I think, are unbeaten in about 10 games. I can't see past a Norwich win. So I'm going to say 2-0 for that one. Watford doing pretty well at the moment. They're taking on Sheffield Wednesday. So I'm going to say 2-0 to Watford. Cardiff against Forest. Forest in a bit of trouble. I think I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for Cardiff here. Bristol City taking on Stoke. 1-0 to Bristol City for me. Sorry, Stoke fans. And then Derby, winless in about 9 against Luton, who I think have won their last 2. So I'm going to say, this one was hard as well. I'm going to say Luton 2. Derby 1, so a win away from home from Luton. What am I doing? Anyway, remember, when you've entered your predictions, you can challenge Jeff as well. And if you beat him, you could be in the draw to win £500. Okay, that is it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. A big thank you to Micah as well for joining us. Don't forget to get your Super 6 predictions in and look out for that extra round on Monday. We are on Twitter and Instagram as well. You can follow us. It's at Super 6. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please hit like and subscribe. And then it just automatically downloads so you don't have to bother with it again. You can just listen to it whenever you want. And if you feel like it, give us a 5-star rating and review. Only if you mean it though. I feel like you'll mean it after that interview with Micah. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Lots of love.